Okay, that's one of the most exciting panels, I believe. I think people are still discussing the topics, and that shows how interesting the topic was. We do have a very exciting dialogue now in space tech area. We have former Secretary Dr. Somanathan present with us, and we are going to have a very interesting dialogue on unlocking potentials of space tech with Dr. Somanathan and Dr. Koichi Wakata, an astronaut and Chief Technology Officer of Axiom Space. This fireside chat or dialogue will be moderated by Shweta Rajpal, President and CEO of Startup Policy Forum. So I'll hand it over to Shweta now to take the stage and invite the guest and start the session.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chagun, for introducing this session. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be here, and many, many thanks for this invitation. And I think it's a very exciting sector that we're talking about, India's space sector, a gateway for global investment and peaceful exploration. As we know, the global space sector is witnessing today a paradigm shift with the convergence of both the public sector as well as the private sector and the initiatives that are taking place. There's rapid technological advancements, increasing international collaboration. And India, of course, has a very, very robust space program led by ISRO, which has been a leading player in the global space ecosystem. Without any further delay, I'd like to call upon stage Dr. S. Somanath, former Secretary of the Department of Space and, of course, also former ISRO Chairman. So please join us. I'd also like to call on stage Dr. Koichi Wakata. He is an astronaut, and I told him last evening over dinner that this is the first time I'm sharing a panel with an astronaut, so thank you. But just to give you a sense, he's the Chief Technology Officer of Axiom Space, and he will be bringing the private sector experience and his extensive experience in space exploration and commercial space ventures that he will be talking about. I think we want to first start by getting Dr. Somanath's perspectives on integrating India's private sector, space sector, into the global space economy, and how is it that India today can attract global deep tech innovations and investments. I think it's very important for us to also understand his vision as far as the latest space policy is concerned, and also what are the kind of outer space governance partnerships and the role that many institutions across the public and private sector need to play as far as fostering global partnerships are concerned. So would you like to take it from there, or here, whatever's comfortable, sir? Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here in this technology dialogue. Before we talk about what just now mentioned about the space tech in India, I think we need to understand the changing landscape of the space globally. If you really look at what are those things which are subtle things that are happening over the last few years, which is making an impact in space sector. The first and foremost is, I believe, is the cost of access to space is coming down substantially, which actually encourages many things to happen. Though it's really coming down, or it's an apparent coming down, is something that we need to discuss a little later, but it's coming down, really, in some monetary terms. It creates an effect in terms of launching of more satellites, primarily building of small satellites, launching constellations. These are possible only when you have lower launch cost available. So this is the first thing. Of course, the other impact is the thing is that many more nations are now coming into space. Earlier, it was limited to only a few nations, primarily having launch capability, huge infrastructure, were into space. Now, if you really count number of nations into space, there are almost 100. The domain of interest is also changing. I think the interest in exploration is increasing. The thrust on human space flight is increasing. People are talking about colonizing Moon and Mars once again, which was once a story, but now over a period of time it was not a very interesting story. But then once again it is coming up to the top. We are talking about constellations and servicing in many domains, like the communication. You are talking about direct-to-device communication up to 5G from space. Of course, it is going to be a reality soon. If you look at the revenue generation models, you see the position, navigation, timing, PNT services are the dominant element in space, not even the communication. You will really surprised to know where the incomes are coming from space. It's actually coming more from PNT services than other sectors. The other important point is that the strategic element of space is also shifting. And you see nations are spending more money into space for strategic advantage, and there is an important and increasing interest in space to become a dominant player in strategic capabilities. So this is also evident in the recent events and what are happening world over. We also see the impact of space in climate change mitigation measures, etc. So you look at measurement sensors and data providing, primarily looking at climate and sustainability becomes an important issue. You can also see the large number of spacecrafts and corresponding issues of debris are being talked about much better, and you see the issues of mitigation, space situational awareness, etc. becoming some center stage of discussions. It was not so in the past. So all these are really creating a lot of hype in this sector. You can see it's no longer a government-sponsored program everywhere. It's the private entities are coming more and more interested, primarily because there is an economic activity associated with the space, which is increasingly evident. Otherwise, no private would have been coming. Of course, government investments are still key to keeping the space sector growing, because the R&D investment in space still comes from government. So if you really look at the investment coming mostly from government, but substantial quantity is still coming from private. The biggest shock we can see is that established players are now fully unsettled. If you really look at globally, you see in US, the NASA, even if you look at the European Space Agency or Russia, you see they are not knowing where to go. I think many of them are actually finding their own route, whether this is the route or whether the only player which is successful and evident in front of all of you, he is making everyone unsettled, and what is the real direction to go? I think nobody is very clear. Everybody has their own policies coming up, approaches coming. It's not very, very clear in established players. You can also see that private companies are coming and more innovations are coming at a much faster rate than it used to be in the space sector, which earlier development cycles were 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, but it is now much faster. So the speed of innovation and induction into the market becomes very important. I think all these are really the observation if you make globally. But if you really look at India, you can also see its reflections on what we were doing in India. Of course, India has been a major player last 60 years, and ISRO happened to be the only space active player in India a few years back. But then slowly the interest, according to the same trend happening world over, really happened in India also. Startups started coming in, building rockets, satellites, applications, delivery. And you created an ecosystem now which is very conducive for private and NGOs to come into space sector, primarily through the space sector reforms that happened in 2020, the space policy announcement that happened in 2023, the other initiatives like the FDI policy, the in-space creation, all of this really created a real good environment. Of course, if you really look at the scale of activity, you will also be surprised that our global economy of space, which is typically valued at around 500 billion US dollars, the contribution from India is very, very small. It's less than 2 billion. Maybe 2%, actually. It is around 8 or 9 billion, not 2 billion. And if this has to really become bigger, and we find that there is a plan and a strategy which is needed, which is actually now in place. I think we will discuss about that a little later. Thank you.
Dr. Somanath, that's wonderful, coming from you, all these opening remarks, because you've really laid the overall framework and groundwork of what is really required. So talking about where we are making that strategic shift from a very well laid out strategy as far as the government is concerned to now saying, you know what, we need to make this real. We want space tech to be a sector that India will be a leader in. And I think much to learn from the kind of commercial space activities that we are now seeing in the private sector globally, and the collaborations that can follow. So with that, I'd like to invite Dr. Koichi Wakata, who is, as we said, an astronaut and CTO of Axiom Space, to talk all about his experience and his vision as far as the private sector is concerned. I believe you also have a presentation for us, so would love for us to understand your strategy better.
Thank you very much. It's my honor to be here at this dialogue. I'm an astronaut of Axiom Space. I flew in space 5 times, 3 times on the US Space Shuttle, 1 time on the Russian Soyuz spacecraft, and then 2 years ago I came back on Elon Musk's SpaceX Crew Dragon 5. And I spent for about 500 days in space. At Axiom, we're so honored. First of all, it is my honor to be in the same panel with Dr. Somanath. He was always in the many panels, and then I was always on this side, on the audience side, but today it's my honor to be in the same panel. And I am honored to be with him, and who led this country to this golden era of Indian in space. And Axiom is so honored to have astronaut Shukla, wing commander of spacecraft on the AX4 flight. That's the ISRO's, we are supporting ISRO's support flight with the joint NASA-ISRO mission to the International Space Station. So astronaut Shukla is flying with us on the AX4 mission, and I will show you some of those slides. And this is our crew, astronaut Shukla. Here is he's trading as a pilot of this AX4 mission on SpaceX Crew Dragon to the International Space Station. Commander is Peggy Whitson, and we have astronaut from Hungary and Poland. So we're really honored to have the first astronaut from India, first astronaut to the International Space Station, following the first astronaut, Rakesh Sharma, back in 1984, who went to on a Soyuz spacecraft to space. So it's our privilege to have an opportunity to support ISRO's effort in this joint NASA-ISRO mission. And I also had a privilege to work with Dr. Kalpana Chawla in Houston, Texas at NASA Johnson Space Center when I was stationed there for over 20 years. And we, together with Kalpana, we developed the robotic situational awareness for the Space Shuttle's robotic arm, that's a Canadarm. So those are my connections with India, but I'm here. I'm so honored to be here. We have already completed 3 commercial space flights to the International Space Station, the X1 through 3, and the 4 is coming up with astronaut Shukla. We have expanded the doors to the countries that have never been to the ISS. For example, we had 2 astronauts from Saudi Arabia on the X2 mission. That country has never been to ISS before, but with a commercial company playing a key role in the human space flight in the ISS program, we were able to open the door to those countries. And I'm glad that now India is with us on this effort. And so at Axiom, we are developing the new space station and also new spacesuit that will be worn by the NASA astronauts. Currently scheduled no earlier than 2027 for the moon landing. And first female astronaut will be flying to the surface of the moon, and she will be wearing this suit. And in the future, I hope in this country, when ISRO astronauts go to the moon, they will be wearing our spacesuit of Axiom Space. And since we're a private sector, we are collaborating with industry partners throughout the world. For example, we are working with Italy's Prada for the design and for the materials that will be used on the spacesuit, and also we're working with Nokia for the 4G LTE communication system that will be used between the spacesuit to the lander on the surface of the moon. So since we are outside of this, we're in this space program of the national space programs at the same time, but we are developing as a commercial entity on those spacecraft and the spacesuits, we were able to expand this collaboration as a supply chain to other countries. So we are developing the new space station, AX space station, and we will be launching the first module no earlier than 2027. That's the left one, PPTM, that will be attached to the International Space Station. And then we can transfer the modules and then also the equipment that is very precious on the International Space Station. And then when the International Space Station will be deorbited in 2030, before that, we will undock from the space station and we will continue to build. And thanks to the great effort of Dr. Somanath, this country has reached this era where you can have all kinds of systems in human space flight, the launching vehicle, Gagarian spacecraft, and then hopefully we'll be able to collaborate in those areas of space station, spacesuits, and then more flight opportunities of the Indian astronauts to the International Space Station. So we are so open to any of those collaboration between India and then Axiom Space Station. So also this dialogue today, we're focused on this 4 pillars and semiconductors and biotechnology, bioeconomy, and also this here in quantum and artificial intelligence. Those are lining up with the themes that we are focused here in this dialogue today. And these are the areas that we are trying to utilize zero gravity in the space station. Semiconductor world, we use the microgravity for production of semiconductor material that has much less impurity, with like a higher performance of the semiconductors. And then also we'll be using quantum technology and AI for the orbital data center that will be housed in the space station on our space station module. So the areas that we discussed today, we have been discussing in this forum of the dialogue. We are really focused in these areas in space station, our space station on the Axiom. So with that, and also as I mentioned, the orbital data center is one of the key areas that we're focused in utilizing the space station with this demand of national security as well as any kinds of communication utilizing the constellation. Between the constellation satellites, we can use optic communication, but between the station or from the Earth orbit to the Earth, we are using the RF signals, and orbital data center plays a key role in having more robust and also real-time judgment and commanding to the satellites, and also getting the data that is really needed right now from the space asset. So those are the areas that we're focused on, and we're open to a lot of potential collaboration between India and Axiom Space Station. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation, and again, a great overview. You specifically have talked about your association with India in different ways, right? And I think the most exciting being the upcoming mission. Walk us through a little more, Dr. Wakata, about the significance of the mission, the role being played by India, of course, with the presence of an Indian astronaut who would be accompanying. A little bit more about your experience and why you think this would be game-changing, globally for the space tech sector and also for India.
Okay, as far as the involvement of astronaut Shukla on our flight, I think it is a very important and efficient way for India to make a progress in human space flight technologies, because Dr. Somanath has already led this country's technology to this high level in the world in the launching capabilities, satellite capabilities, and the ground assets as well. And the human space flight has a little more addition to that. For example, life support system. Like we have to turn yesterday's coffee into tomorrow's coffee. Probably in this country, it's yesterday's tea to tomorrow's coffee, because we have to recycle the water and air and everything. So those are some additional technologies that we have to have in order for humans to stay. And these are the new areas I believe India ISRO is challenging. And by having astronaut Shukla on our flight, he and his backup astronaut Nea, they will be able to experience the training and then the readiness flow to get to space, including those new areas that ISRO is trying to develop. So I think it's a good opportunity for India to have national prestige by sending astronauts to the International Space Station in an early stage, and at the same time, effectively, efficiently acquire new knowledge in these areas that ISRO is trying to get. So I think this is an important step, and also by having a private sector playing in this role. This country is also in the process of that. As Dr. Somanath said, private sector's involvement in space is very important. So ISRO is working through Axiom Space with NASA, and I think this kind of new pathways will create the new pathways for India's private sector to get involved in human space flight as well.
Talking about new pathways for India, Dr. Somanath, would love your thoughts around, whether you think, India is at an inflection point as far as, space exploration is concerned, as far as space tech is concerned, because we are seeing, a lot of excitement coming up in the private sector. We just recently saw the success of space tech companies like the Gantara and Pixel. We're seeing investors now excited about investing in space tech companies and deep tech becoming a reality for venture capital firms where they think that there is possibility of commercialization and monetization. Dr. Somanath, you're someone who's seen this space this sector very, very closely. Share with us if you believe that we are truly at an inflection point right now.
So there are many aspects that gives this good feeling in space to really grow. The first and foremost is this country has 140 crore people. The extent in which the space has been useful for the public has not been very large still. I think there is still a huge market or possibility yet to be explored. You look at the communication services that are being happening, or the Earth observation related data services and its impact, or even if you look at the PNT based services, I think there is a huge scope for it to reach to much more people. That means there is a huge market yet to be explored. So as far as the National Space Agency is concerned, ISRO's goal till now was really to create the capabilities, building rockets, building satellites of certain numbers and launching to certain level, but not to in terms of numbers or applications. If you see, it has not been percolated down to the deep-rooted society yet. You have done a lot of demonstration, you have done a lot of impact. If you look at disaster mitigation, I think we are doing extremely well. The services are really good. Entire television broadcasting and digital services, you have really spacecrafts as a backbone. EO data has been used for ministries and departments for certain level of applications. But then there is a huge scope still to be explored. If you really look at again on the strategic side also, there is a need to increase the number of spacecrafts to improve the communication observation capability dramatically, which is needed for the nation, because we are a huge nation with very big, large borders and need coverage and extent of information gathering, etc. So this seems to be a good opportunity for new players to come in and then create markets and applications which can actually bring in revenue. See, if you look at the space sector, you will find that the entire value chain is dominated by the application sector. Typically, around 60 to 70% is in that domain. Building infrastructure, building applications, delivery, and then generating revenue. Building satellites constitute only something like 20%. And building rockets and launch vehicles is only 15%. And the upstream is actually very capital intensive, and the revenue generation potential is actually low. But we need all of them. We need all of them. But today, if you really look at India, we are very good at the upstream. So we are good at building rockets. We have our own rockets. We are reasonably low cost. Access to space is possible to be given. Satellite building is also a possibility. But on the application segment, if you really look at, there is a huge work yet to be done. That's why we want to see startups and companies coming in that sector to really grow, create markets, create applications, create revenue, which will drive building more satellites, and which will also drive increasing launch capability and low-cost access to space as a dominant activity. So we look at all these sectors and see how this can be done. That's why we have created a policy in which startups are encouraged to work in every sector today.
Correct.
You will look at launch vehicle also, we have at least 2-3 startups, but they are building small rockets. They are not trying to become competitive to ISRO or anybody. They are trying to create a capability, so tomorrow they will be able to really bring in some innovation from that point of view. But our focus still is on the application side, where we see huge success in companies. They have grown really big in terms of application delivery, and we are looking at how that can really grow in the coming sectors. But then in terms of innovation also, we are seeing they do things differently than the traditional organizations used to do. They are able to penetrate markets. For example, in agri-tech, you have also seen in banking sectors, they are making impact.
So you specifically mentioned certain applications. Are you excited about areas where India will take that leadership position? Like you said, what's important is that where you are collaborating and where you are competing. Do you think within the broader sector, within the broader space tech sector, there are some exciting areas where India can have clear leadership? For instance, let's look at Digantara, which is a member of the Startup Policy Forum, and we've been working closely with them. They've had recent success with their satellite, and again, for them, what's exciting is, and it's innovative. I've been to their office right here in Bangalore, and they showed us, how they're cleaning debris in space, and it's very fascinating to see how young entrepreneurs are coming up with these absolutely innovative but very essential applications that will become at some point both commercial, monetizable, mainstream, and will sort of take India in that leadership position, sir.
No, I agree. I think I don't want to talk that India will become leader in this sector. I think that's not a right narrative at this moment.
Sure.
See, we would like to find areas which is beneficial for the country at this moment.
Correct.
Which will be really helping us to grow in terms of applications, in terms of economic value. I think that's all. If you do that, then this sector will grow. So, for example, the one which you mentioned about the SSA, the Space Situational Awareness and Information about Debris,
yeah.
Many nations are working in this sector. It's not one India alone. It's not.
Correct.
Digantara is making a certain innovative approach in this whole thing, which is being noted. Possibly that will be able to grow and then create a good niche for themselves. There are equally other domains as well. So we would like to look at all of them. For example, if you look at Pixel, they did a hyperspectral constellation for the first time.
Correct.
Let us see how that they will be able to create a niche in that. Hyperspectral imaging in constellation has a huge advantage with regard to resource mapping. It has strategic advantages and many, many other things. So we would like to encourage every sector in this, including launch vehicle technologies,
Correct.
advanced manufacturing, additive manufactured engines, the low-cost access to space, or even building Earth observation constellations, automatic identification, signal intelligence. I think all of this area I am seeing potential to grow. So I won't talk about that we would like to be leader in this area compared to others. I think everybody wants to be a leader, but the area in space is such that we are all cooperating in this sector. So if you really look at all the major players, we talk to each other very well, and we see the potential of space really to help the nation or the people who are connected with that to improve their life. So this potential is seen. That's why you can see human spaceflight is one of the most complex domain, but this is the domain where we talk to each other the best.
No, and we're seeing fruits of that collaboration coming through. Dr. Wakata, your thoughts now, because I think Dr. Somanath has very rightly laid down. He, of course, mentioned a number of domains, a number of areas and applications where there's work going on, not just in India, but globally. And I think rightly so, he's put it in perspective that this is something we're going to see happen globally. But from your lens, you're someone who's been there, done that. You've literally, been into space 5 times, correct? And you understand what are the requirements, right? What is it that is lacking? What is it where space tech companies can come in today and make a big difference? And he talked about the successes of Digantara and Pixel are the kind of Indian space tech companies that are making waves globally. But we'd love to hear from your understanding of where you think those clear areas are, and take forward the conversation that Dr. Somanath talked about, how the success lies in collaboration.
Yeah, very good question. I don't think there's any very strong points of that we're lacking in collaboration on technology, but I think it's very important especially in human space flight part, I think each country can gain a lot more by collaborating rather than doing it alone. In many space arena, I think we can say the same thing, but especially in the human space flight, I believe that if you want to do it quick, go alone, but if you want to go further, do it together. And I have seen that, I have witnessed that for many years. But at the same time, in this effort, unless you have the technology, unless you have technology that this or other countries is superior, it's really difficult to extend that technology to collaborate and contribute to the international effort. So India already has a variety of technical expertise in the space technology as well as the human space. So I think it's important to collaborate by to collaborate. And by joining the international effort, like International Space Station, India is part of the Artemis program, and by working together with the technology, each country can have this discussion to establish a standard. And I think it's very important to have this international standard, how to operate efficiently, how to operate safely. But in order to participate in the discussion, it's important to have the technology to found that the effort. And India has already done this docking operation, for example. And by utilizing those technologies, by working together in an international effort, India can contribute to establish a new standard how we operate. And so those are the things that we should, India should focus on. And
I'll also add to what you
Sure.
said about is that there are many more international space stations coming up. It's
Correct.
Axiom is talking about one, the Blue Origin is speaking about one, the Russians are talking about, the Chinese talking about new space stations. I think we are also talking to them, and we also have a new space station announced called the Paradhi Antarisha Station. We started the engineering and building part of it already. So here the cooperation becomes so important. If you really want to do work of ferrying cargoes to their space station and vice versa, we are trying to look at how we can design our cargo ships to have the standards that will suit them, how you can dock to their space station in a manner that will be, that will be allowed from safety point of view, control point of view. So these dialogues have already started, and we have made it, many discussions have already happened between us to see how we can commonly operate space stations, rescue in case of problems that are likely to occur in space missions. So this becomes a very, very strong area of international cooperation.
No, I think absolutely, and as we said, that you can only gain the true success of it with collaboration. And I think what is fascinating is that this is one sector where we're already seeing that a lot of that is taking place. A last question before we wrap up, because I know we're running out of time, is to talk about this interdisciplinary approach as far as the deep tech sector is concerned. As we know now, all eyes on deep tech as an overall domain, space tech playing an important part within the larger emerging tech, deep tech space. Dr. Wakata, your presentation did talk about quantum and AI and semiconductors, biotechnology. Share with us how Axiom is viewing this as an overall space where you need an integration of everything exciting, all the cutting edge technologies that we're seeing emerge globally, and how that is all going to link up to space tech.
Yeah, human space flight history, if you look back, then all of these activities was led by the governments of the spacefaring nations. But now I've envisioned that in the next decade, we will make this a low Earth orbit to like an economic place where we can have a lucrative business by having those technologies like quantum, AI, pharmaceutical, and semiconductors. So this is a time that we will be able to monetize the utilization of the space station, because we have had more than 30 years of experience on orbit. So through this experience on the International Space Station, now we know in which field we can monetize our utilization. So quantum, AI, and then robotics, and then pharmaceutical. Those are the areas that this dialogue is really focusing. And it's very important to have this inter-sector, cross-sector discussion in this field, not only in space, but combining all the challenges that we are facing. So I think a forum like this is very important, and forum like this with a lot of young students, I think it's great to have young students listening to this discussion. So this kind of effort is very key.
I'm going to give the closing remarks to Dr. Somanath as someone who's really a true expert in this sector and has seen this sector grow exponentially, from a very, very different vantage point. Sir, if you could look back and capture the progress we've made, talk about where we stand today, but also a little bit of look ahead, right? Given the excitement we're seeing, like today we're living absolutely exciting and fascinating times. Just look at what's happening around us. Every day there is new innovation. Every day we're talking about, how many of these innovations are going to get, funded, captured, monetized, scaled, and we're talking about a new IPR regime. We're talking about interdisciplinary approach. We're talking about collaboration. So it's just fascinating to be living in these times. It's just a very, very interesting time. Dr. Somanath, sum it up for us. What are the opportunities that lie ahead, and especially,
I was giving a global assessment of what's happening in space. Now coming specifically to India, and also what we look at the space ecosystem in India to grow. This is something which I would like to stress upon as a closing remark. The first and foremost is that there is a huge interest now in the space sector everywhere. Young people are very keen to work on space in every domain. Now, for example, starting with launch vehicles, building and launching, satellite building is happening now. At least 4 or 5 companies have started building satellites in India and then launching themselves. Maybe 100 plus startups are working in applications, and many more are working in system development and delivery for supporting space systems. So we have almost 300 companies working in space sector today. With an investment not very huge, something like 8,000 crores, 6,000 crores, that type of investment. Last year itself, we had almost 1,000 crore investment coming in from VC funding, etc. Now, if you really look at how this will grow, I see from many aspects of it. One, we still do not have we have companies who can be called as space tech companies, big ones, like what we have in other nations. So the first and foremost goal for me, in space, was to create some companies of that class in India who will be able to do end-to-end work on space. For example, conceiving, building, operating launch vehicles and satellites. A company who will be able to operate and launch constellation of satellites to, whether it is in communication or Earth observation, and provide services. Of course, startups and those companies are important because they are the one who will bring in innovation and then quickly translate innovation into products and then services much faster than an established player can do. So a tie-up between a big company and startup companies are important to do this translation faster. But what is lacking today is bigger space companies are non-existent in India today. So we want to create such companies. So there is no resource crunch in India. There are companies who are big enough, who are willing to put money into this. But the issue with space is a catch point because you have, the investment is very high, the gestation periods are larger, the chance of failure is very high. So no one is willing to take the risk of investing in space to create that type of companies. So this causes a big problem, and we need to change this mindset in this country, make big players to come into space and work in space. We have been working telling them that we are ready to transfer our rockets and satellites to you. You take on, build it and operate it, and then re-engineer it and make it better. This is the support we want to give to them to create this company. So if I really look at, I want to see that as one big dream to happen in few years. The second is the secondary level effects like the applications and businesses and startups, etc., is naturally happening. It will happen. Provided you see a benefit of economic activity, a return of investment is going to be there visible, people will be willing to invest and start here. But this is a big problem. To see government alone continuing to remain as a launch vehicle builder, provider of services is going to be one of the bottleneck for us to scale up. So this is one part of it. Second point is there are new emerging areas coming. For example, Koichi spoke about that point, the space station and the new emerging areas of new technologies coming in. For example, when you talk about the space station like Bharati Antariksh Station, we are also trying to see how new domains of microgravity research, new domains of biotechnology research, medicine synthesis, material research, etc., research opportunities can actually grow in this sector. Today, the space technology research are specifically focused on technologies for space systems, not into the secondary effect or applications driven. For example, there is no research happening on medicine synthesis linked to space. There is no research happening on bioastronautics in India, if you really look at. There is no research happening on purer materials that can be used can be synthesized in space. There is no one working on organ printing in microgravity environment. Actually, we need to create large pool of researchers that will support the space economy. And if you do not have that, the building of space station will be of no use. So let us look at that creation of the larger ecosystem in academic institutions, research laboratories, that will support the whole space ecosystem to survive and continue for longer duration. Otherwise, that initial euphoria will not be able to sustain. I think we would like to look at that part of the research ecosystem also to grow. And that has to happen only through this collaboration, academic interaction, bringing in some knowledge from outside if needed. I think all of this need to be done as part of it. Thank you.
Dr. Somanath, what a wonderful summary. And I think, yes, we have questions coming up from the audience. So if with due permission, we can take 1 or 2 questions. Okay, quickly. Yeah, go ahead. We can get a mic there.
My question is to Dr. Somanath. You concentrated improving the efficiency in launching the satellite, while Musk concentrated on innovation. So he captured 60% of this space market. Is it ISRO, there is no innovation available inside where you think of what we have to do, how to get money, all these issues? Or is it
I think, no, you are missing very important points. Yeah. Which 60% of the market Musk captured, I do not know. No, let me answer now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
whose market he has captured? He has not captured anyone's market. Let us understand that he has created a rocket which is reasonably low-cost access, reusable rocket he has created. And he created a business plan for himself, the Starlink. And 90% of the satellite he launched are for himself, not anyone else. Okay, you are not, and none of the Chinese satellites is going to the US. None of the Russian satellites are going to the US. Very rarely a European satellite goes to US. And India has launched one recently. And whose satellites he is taking for launch? You should have wrong narratives at any point.
Right.
The problem of innovation is very much there. What he has done is only he has created a reusable rocket. One of us are trying, it is being tried in Europe. There is no reusable rocket in Europe. There is no reusable rocket in Russia. And China is just trying. India just announced a reusable rocket building. So in another few years, there will be a reusable rocket everywhere. Okay, so, but then he is creating yet another narrative of going to Mars and intercontinental flight. It's yet another business narrative. So these questions, we should not look at it in isolation and get confused. I think I don't want to go further on.
Yeah, I think you've answered that well. I know there are a number of hands, but we are out of time. So what I'll request is, if we could do quick questions and we can have a summary as a wrap answer, that's the only way we can address. I think there's a mic already there. Please go ahead.
Thank you.
And if you could keep your questions brief, that'll be helpful.
Yes. So I'm Dr. Ajinkya Kamath from India Energy Storage Alliance. My question is related to companies working on space applications. So we did a project with the European Space Agency to help develop solutions by using ESA data to optimize sites and design of microgrids in rural India. So what kind of partnership frameworks we can develop for this kind of partnership where space agencies in one country can work with industry and civil society in another country to develop such inclusive innovations and applications?
Great. So question on partnership frameworks. If you could please pass around your mic. I think this girl here, the lady here.
There's a short mic.
Question. Okay, sir, go ahead,
Yeah, this is not a question for, maybe it's not so nice. Is mature the time also to speak about responsibility in the space activity? You mentioned about debris. We are launching a lot of satellite. We are probably cloudy the system. So it is important to work in this address to also face this new problem that could be occur in the future.
And if you could please pass the mic back here. And go ahead. We'll come to you in a minute. Go ahead quickly. I'll take 3-4 questions. You can answer them together.
So this is a question, one to the astronaut. In terms of specific quantum technologies, are you thinking more towards the memory side, or is it towards the cold atom racks that the Chinese and the Americans have developed in their space stations? And for Somanath sir, when you talk about tech transfer, how can we really facilitate that from the likes of ISRO to the satellite makers that are upcoming in India? Thank you.
Good questions. I think we'll take it from her. Go ahead.
With space becoming integral to defense strategies.
Yes. Could you be louder, please?
With space becoming integral to defense strategies, is humanity advancing towards developing warships or similar assets for Space Force?
Good question.
So,
last
Dr.
one.
Somanath, sir, this is Shantanu.
Last one is here.
Sir, here, one more question.
Just 1 minute. I'm taking the question here, and then we'll. I have good news for everybody. We have a tea break, and we're requesting both our esteemed speakers to be there for tea, and they can exchange views and ideas. But we'll take the last one.
It's such an honor to talk to Dr. Somanath, so everybody is sort of asking questions. I have a slightly different view. Sir, you have, both of you will listen, the degree of human engagement with space is going on. And it's going to go more because of space stations and all that. And we are aware of the incidents related to Dr. Sunita Williams and something, where there is a lot of risk mitigation which is involved in planning the mission. So does this form an essential point of strategy because of the increased human engagement? Because it's going to come in the very future.
I'm sorry, I'm going to allow them to please answer these
I
questions
think
first.
we will start
Yes.
answering one by one.
So I think, will I
you
go
can
to-
you can start answering.
Do-
There was a
Dr.
question.
Wakata, there was a question on quantum.
My question is very easy. The orbital data center, I think it's both, because we're more like a user of AI and quantum technology in order to efficiently use the orbital data center. So there's this is an open question. So we will use whatever is available in quantum technology.
On your question on the number of satellites and the debris, it's a real issue. But there is no global regulation on who to launch, how many to launch, where to launch. Nobody is controlling. No nation wants to be controlled in terms of the number of satellites to be launched. So we can only generate a consensus in some global fora, UN Coopers or many other fora where we discuss long-term sustainability issues. There are fora where we discuss this. And space debris mitigation measures are being proposed, discussed. And suppose a set of guidelines have come recently on how to handle them. But there is no regulation at this moment. So that's why the business of debris monitoring and surveillance becomes a business case. Okay. For example, if I am an operator, I want to launch 100 satellites. I cannot create my own system of monitoring and controlling it. So somebody has to provide a service. So it's like when the vehicles are increasing, traffic services become a business case. So I think there will be a time coming. I think many more satellites are going to be launched. The projection today that last year, maybe double of that will be launched in the coming year with the current approaches that are likely to be. But still, space is still big. I think there is no real issue. If you can monitor and control, we can continue for some more time, but not forever. But at that time that you need to find mechanism by which we need to deorbit, control, regulate. I think that will come over a period of time once it becomes a real issue. I think the issue is already flagged. People are working on it. Yeah. I think the other question was related to technology transfer. I think there is no difficulty of technology transfer at this moment from ISRO to anyone else. We have transferred till now 500 technologies for different purpose, buyback, for the industry's use, etc. So that mechanism of technology transfer is already existing. We are also talking about even transferring the entire technology of a rocket to some companies or even to satellite to some companies. But the issue today is the other side, the company side, there is the reception capability is limited. I think this is one of the issues which I am facing. Though we are ready to transfer the technology, the other side there is not enough for people. If you do not have people, there is nobody can receive the technology. No, it's not a document that you are transferring. It's a process which includes years of exposure to something. And of course, one technology, if you want to transfer a sensor technology, it can be easily transferred by a document. But how to build a rocket, how to transfer that knowledge, it requires enormous amount of time and working together. And this is something which we are going through, and we are open to it.
I think there was a quick question on human engagement, sir, if you could. Yeah.
What is the plan behind it?
Human engagement in space?
Yeah.
It is natural thing to happen. I think it is a nature of the human being to explore, go places, and sometimes create colonies in Moon and Mars, or maybe in exosolar planets. I think this is something that we must push further. Human exploration of space is an essential thing. I think you are never reading books on apocalypse, I believe. If you start reading some more books on that, I think you will be supporting us more in.
All right. On that very interesting note, we're going to close this session. I know there are questions, but I apologize. We'll ensure that during tea we can answer the question. I know you've held a mic for long, but we'll make sure that you get to spend time.
So
but it's been a very, very engaging discussion.
Just
Dr. Chandran.
wanted to clarify. It was not about that. I really support.
So I request you to no follow-up.
I'm making it light.
No, I think it's been a very spirited discussion, and I really, really want to thank Dr. Wakata and Dr. Somanath for being so patient and for really opening up, the discussion to such interesting ideas. And of course, as you can see, there's excitement buzzing around space, and this will only continue and grow as we move further. But with experts like the two of you sharing your perspective, I think we have a very, very clear understanding that this is a sector that is here to stay, it's here to grow, and collaborations will be the way forward in terms of ensuring that we can truly unlock the potential of space tech, not only in India, but globally. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us for this session.
Thank you so much, Shweta. I know this is not an easy job for you, but really, really thankful to everyone. And with all due respect to all the delegates who are here trying to engage, all your thoughts are respected, but because of keeping the timing, it's very, very, very tough for us. please do engage just outside this room, but take only 10 minutes of tea break now, because we have another exciting session, starting up with Secretary Electronics coming here and with other speakers at 11:40. So I request all of you to assemble back at 11:40 in this room.